Hey y'all, welcome to the second, well, I guess third round of debate. And so this is the negative side, this is the affirmative side. And the resolution is the United States federal government should establish a uniform driving age of 18, I believe. They'll have the exact words. But thank you so much for judging, thank you so much for watching. And now they're going to introduce themselves, starting with the 1AC.
I guess.
Okay.
I'm John Fairbauer, I guess. I'll be doing the 1AC.
I'm JJ Paul, and I'll be doing cross-examination of the 1NC.
I'm Giacomo Dongo, and I'll be doing the 2AC and the cross-examination of the 2NC.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Arias, and I will be doing the 1NC.
Hi, my name is Gabriella Roberts, and I will be the second negative speaker today. Thank you so much for judging.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for judging, and let's begin.
Is the negative team ready? The judges? Timer's ready? Let's see. What do you get when you cross a 16-year-old in a car? Trouble. Good afternoon. I, John Fairbauer, and my partners Giacomo Dongo and JJ Paul stand for the resolution that the United States federal government should increase legal driving age to 18. In order to make sure we are all on the same page today for this debate round, let's define some key terms that we'll hear and use in our round today. Definition 1. United States, Federation of States, especially when forming a nation in a specified territory. Source, the source. Definition 2. Federal government. The system of government as are defined in the Constitution, which is based on the separation among three branches. Definition Oxford Learning Dictionaries. Definition 3. Driving age. The minimum legal age at which a person is permitted to obtain a license. Source, IIHS, or Institute for Insurance Highway Safety. Harm 1. 16 to 19-year-olds are more likely to crash. Harm 1. 16 to 19-year-olds are more likely to crash. Quote, the risk of motor vehicle crashes is higher among teens ages 16 to 19 than among any other age group. Teen drivers in this age group have a fatal crash rate almost 3 times as high as drivers ages 20 and older per mile driven, end quote. Source, CDC. More crashes will reduce our population, and if the age group that crashes the most aren't allowed to drive without supervision, more lives will be saved. Harm 2. Lots of money is wasted on car accidents. Harm 2. Lots of money is wasted on car accidents. Quote, motor vehicle crashes cost American society $340 billion in 2019. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration announced the new agency's report, The Economic and Societal Impact of Motor Vehicle Crashes 2019, examines the cost of 1 year of crashes that killed an estimated 36,500 people, injured 4.5 million, and damaged 23 million vehicles. A lot of money is wasted on car crashes, and if the age group that crashes the most aren't allowed to drive, they won't crash and therefore won't waste money, which can be used on more important things. So we can clearly see there are some major problems in our current system. How are we going to solve this? Mandate 1. The driving age will be raised in every state in the U.S. to 18 years old. Mandate 2. 17-year-olds and under in training will be supervised at all times while driving by a person over 21 who has at least a permit. Mandate 3. They must hold a permit for 2 years in order to receive a license. Mandate 4. Make the driving test harder. Agency, U.S. government, DMV, and any other necessary government bodies. Funding. No funding is needed as this plan is purely legislative. In fact, money will be gained. Enforcement. Police departments, state auditor, legislator, attorney general, and any other necessary bodies. Advantage 1. Lives will be saved. Advantage 1, lives will be saved. From the AAFoundation.org, 2024. From the bar graphs from the AAA Foundation, we see that 16 to 17-year-olds per 100 million miles driven have the most car crashes, both in injury and fatal. There will be less car accidents due to the fact that the people group that crash the most won't be allowed to drive. Advantage 2, money will be saved. Advantage 2, money will be saved. Money won't be wasted on car accidents, so everyone will have more money to spend on more important things. 6,300 to 1,952,000 can be lost to car accidents. From the Injury Facts, NSC.org, 2023. Summary: We have these major problems with the status quo. We have immature teens raging on the streets, crashing and spending billions on medical and insurance. Our plan seeks to remedy these problems in one simple way. The U.S. federal government increases the driving age to 18. With this, we will have safer, smarter drivers, reducing spending on medical and insurance. Parents will appreciate having older, safer teens traversing the streets in downtown. Therefore, my partners, I, John Fairbauer, urge the judges to vote for the resolution to increase driving age to 18. Thank you. I'm now ready for cross-examination.
Why should the federal government why should the federal government regulate something that states have successfully managed for decades?
Because even with this, you can't. You already have. You can't really change how good you are with an age, so you kind of have to increase the age.
Okay, so does your plan help or hurt families with limited transportation options?
It actually helps because their kids will be safer.
But taking away the right for 16-year-olds to drive, doesn't that negatively affect people in their homes who support on 16-year-olds to drive?
Technically, but if they're still alive because they can't drive, I'm sure that's going to help them a whole lot more.
Shouldn't current 16 and 17-year-olds drivers lose their license if your plan's passed?
No, I wouldn't have.
So then your plan wouldn't apply equally to everyone. Wouldn't that make it unfair?
Yes, but after a few years, that will kind of dissipate.
What is your timeline for this plan?
Basically, to be implemented in next few years.
Okay, so do you think it will be costly for states to change their entire licensing system?
I don't know the exact cost, but
Then where does that money come from? Would it come from taxpayers?
Taxpayers, there's the Treasury, various places.
Okay, so do you believe age automatically makes someone a better driver?
Technically, yes, because if you had the older they are, their brain is more developed, so yeah.
Then why do 18 to 20-year-olds still cause accidents?
They do, but far less.
Okay, so how would this affect teens who rely on driving for work or school in rural areas?
Well, either their parents can drive them or older siblings can. Also, if it's close enough, they can just apply for walk.
Okay, so if maturity is your main reason, shouldn't we raise other ages too, like voting or military enlistments?
Not technically, because driving requires immediate judgment, and that's different with the military.
So are you aware that many rural teens drive to work or school because there's no public transportation?
Yeah.
Okay, so then your plan... Oh, thank you.
The affirmative ready? Okay, 8 minutes on the clock. Good morning, judges. Today, my partner, Gabriella Roberts, and I remain firmly opposed to the resolution that the uniform driving age should be changed to 18. Many people will judge based on what they have seen that teens are reckless and have car accidents easily, but this is not the case. These crashes are more common during the first few months of owning a license. Moreover, the crashes that do happen after a few months or years of being a new driver can be prevented. There are certain programs to help with incidents like these that will help families save money and lives. In addition, we recognize that each state in this country faces different infrastructure, geography, and economy, and cultural norms. Yet, despite this diversity, one universal truth holds. Young drivers are important contributors to mobility, independence, and the functioning of countless communities. An increase to 18 ignores these overwhelming state-by-state differences, treating Arizona the same as Vermont, Texas the same as Massachusetts, even though their needs and realities diverge sharply. Because while every state differs, every state also depends on the importance of its youth. Let us not impose a rigid national age limit that fails to respect these local realities, and instead preserve the freedom, responsibility, and practical necessity of teen drivers across this country. Now, before I begin, I would like to ask the affirmative team to please clear something up in their next speech. Why should a 21-year-old with just a permit be able to supervise someone who is just learning how to drive? Now, let me begin with my first point. The problem is decreasing. My opponent says that 16 through 19-year-olds are more likely to crash, but we believe that this is already being handled. There are already systems like graduated driver's license, curfews, and restrictions on passengers that reduce risk. So the crash rate concern is being addressed. We know this because from IIHS LDI by Rebecca West. Quote, graduated licensing reduces teens driving risk. Graduated licensing allows teens to practice driving with supervision before getting their license, and restricts driving after they are licensed. Today, all states have at least some element of graduated licensing. The current best practices are a minimum intermediate licenses age of 17, a minimum permit age of 16, at least 70 hours of supervised practice driving, and during the intermediate stage, a night driving restriction starting at 8 p.m. and a ban on all teen passengers, end quote. By requiring supervised practice and step-by-step independence, graduated licensing already tries to reduce teen crashes since all states already use the system and it's proven to make driving safer. There's no need for stricter rules or a higher driving age. Adding more restrictions would affect responsible teens, limit their independence, and delay the experience they need to become safe drivers. Furthermore, crash risk is highest in the first months of driving. By AAA Foundation, written in 2024. Quote, the crash incidence rates during their 16, 17, and 18-year-olds' first months of unsupervised driving are very similar, end quote. This shows that even 18-year-olds are older, they just crash as much as 16-year-olds when they start driving. Now, my opponent also says that lots of money is wasted on car accidents. For young drivers, however, we believe that this is not all true. The money from car accidents is used to fix real damage and save lives, so it's not all wasted. From Law Offices of Michael J. Goblin, quote, accident victims have the right to seek compensation for the damages they have suffered, which may include medical expenses. You may incur many medical expenses because of your injuries, such as ambulance and emergency services, emergency room bills, hospital bills, surgery costs, laboratory fees, physical therapy, and medication, pain and suffering, along with losses that are easy to put a dollar figure to. You can picture compensation for the physical and emotional harm you suffered, property damage. You have the right to compensation to repair or replace your vehicle. You may also be able to recover compensation to pay for a car or temporary transportation, end quote. Because accident victims can recover medical costs, lost wages, pain and suffering, and property damage, the money spent after car accidents is not all wasted. It restores victims' lives and prevents financial ruin. This shows that these costs serve an important social and economic purpose rather than being pointless. Now let me continue to my third significance. Peer pressure, not an age. From the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's Traffic Safety Facts. Quote, Teen drivers are 2.5 times more likely to engage in risky behaviors when driving, with one teenager peer compared to driving alone. The risk of a fatal crash increases with the number of teen passengers, regardless of whether the driver is 16, 17, or 18-year-olds. End quote. This proves that the danger isn't the age, it's the situation. Teen drivers with peers in their car are 2.5 times more likely to take risks, and the risk grows with every extra passenger. It doesn't matter if they're 16, 17, or 18. Raising the driving age doesn't stop these crashes, it just delays them, leaving the same risky behavior to happen later. Raising the age hurts families, not just teens. From Cars.com by Colin Bird on March 5, 2015. Quote, one potential con to this initiative is the burden it places on the parents of teens. For many parents, a child getting his or her license is helpful in a country that's overly reliant on private automobiles and where teens typically keep busy schedules. Teens might not be able to find a job as easily or take part in other activities without independently driving themselves around. End quote. Delaying license doesn't just inconvenience teens, it puts extra pressure on parents. In a country where driving is essential, families rely on teens to get to school, work, and activities independently. If the government raises the driving age, parents are forced to become full-time chauffeurs all the time, juggling jobs and responsibilities just to fill the gap. This plan doesn't create safety. It creates stress for working families and limits opportunities for teens who need to work or stay active. Judges, the affirmative side may believe they're protecting young teens by raising the driving age, but are they really? Just because some 16-year-olds have been in accidents does not mean we should punish the mature, responsible majority. Raising the driving age would be taking away young teens' freedom, challenges, and opportunities for action. Today, many sit at home, become socially inactive, or never venture out. When teens are allowed to drive at a younger age, they gain the liberty and joy of being with friends, making choices, and simply going out on their own terms. They shouldn't always depend on their parents for such a basic part of life as driving. They need to grow into adulthood, and driving is a natural start of that journey. In addition, we on the negative side believe that simply changing the driving age will not significantly reduce accidents. Crashes are indeed common, but many people go through them in life. Raising the driving age doesn't necessarily guarantee safety improvements. Moreover, every state is different and has its own framework. For licensing teens, traffic conditions and community demands also differ dramatically between states, so a uniform legal age threshold overlooks the local context of risk, supervision, and infrastructure. Therefore, judges, my partner and I urge you not to vote for the resolution that the uniform legal driving age should be changed to 18. A vote for the affirmative is a vote against responsibility, against activeness, and against giving young teens the chance to prove they're capable of mature decision-making behind the bill. Thank you. I'm now ready for cross-examination.
2 minutes on the clock. Human life is inherently valuable, correct?
Yes.
So shouldn't we stop whatever it takes? Shouldn't we make sure that its life stays?
Yes.
And aren't crashes one of the leading causes of teens dying?
Yes.
So shouldn't we avoid car crashes?
Yes.
So why aren't these programs you mentioned working?
I don't know, I'm sorry.
Okay, which is better? Having their freedom limited for a few years or dying?
Limited freedom.
So shouldn't we raise the driving age? That way they'll at least have life.
I guess.
No more questions. Cross-examination.
I have 8 minutes on my timer if the negative team is ready. And my judges? Alright, let's get started. So throughout the speech, I'll be going line by line, refuting all of the negatives, arguments, and of course, at the end, I'll be bringing it back of why you should vote affirmative. So firstly, the negative was talking about how young drivers are important for their families, and my response to this is lives matter most. Lives matter most. I think we can all agree that we'd rather have safe children that stay at home and don't help us with things than dead children, right? We are saving these lives. It's better to have children than it's better to it's better to have safe children than children who are at risk because they're out and driving at such a young age. Then they were talking about how states differ, and I have a few responses to this. The first you can tag as common need. Common need. This just leads back to my previous point about how lives matter most. They have a common need for safety, for the lives of these teens to be saved. And my second response you can tag as quantity. Quantity. We don't know how much these states differ. It could be a few weeks of having a permit, or a few months of having a permit, or a few years. We don't know. They haven't brought up these statistics. It could be like 6 or 7 laws, but we have no clue. They didn't bring up any statistics or any evidence to it. Then they were talking about how the problem is decreasing, and I have 3 responses to this. You can tag the first as not enough. Not enough. As we see, my partner brought up statistics in the 1AC about how there are thousands and thousands of teens dying. So obviously the problem is not decreasing enough because we are already losing thousands of lives. You can tag the second as not uniform. Not uniform. Some graduated license programs that they mentioned are different than others, which can vary the effectiveness of the program. And then thirdly, not proven. Not proven. They were talking about how there were lives saved and that this is proven, but they didn't bring up any statistics or any causation to the decrease of lives lost. Then they were talking about how the maturity of 18-year-olds is the same as 16-year-olds or something like that. And my response to this is mandate. Mandate. The status quo has no learning period for your permit. Once you turn 16, if you pass the driver's test, you can get your driver's license. But with our plan, we are going to have a required learning period. Even if you are 20 years old, you'll still have to hold your permit for 2 years. You'll still have that 2-year learning period to learn how to drive. Then they were talking about how the money isn't wasted because it's actually going to fixing your car and saving your lives. Like hospital costs and things like that. And my response to this is needless lost. Needless lost. What we meant by this is that it's a needless loss. It's a waste of money that does not have to happen. It's a use of money that does not have to happen, that we can save by reducing the crash rates, which not only saves lives, but also saves you lots of money. Then they were talking about peer pressure and how teens are far more likely to do things irresponsibly when they have friends in the car. And my response to this is maturity. Maturity. I think we can all agree that teenagers are pretty immature. And if we limit the driving age to 18, and that's when they get to drive without supervision, I think that'd be better because we have less teens, like 16-year-olds or 15-year-olds, on the road. Then they were talking about how we're not only raising the age for the drivers, but for the family. And this really leads back to my response of lives matter most. Lives matter most. Of course, it'd be great to have your kids driving themselves to school. There are things like school buses, though, right? That's the biggest thing they mentioned, that they have to drive themselves to school. I'm pretty sure most of the Texas area, at least, has school buses to take them to school. And either way, lives matter most. Would you rather have your child risking their lives to drive themselves to school, or have them safe in a school bus? But really, this all leads to my point of a single life. A single life. If the affirmative saves a single life, that warrants our ballot. Because when you vote affirmative, you save that single, inherently valuable human life. Thank you, and I now stand ready for cross-examination.
Do you think every state will easily agree to follow this new law?
I mean, it doesn't matter if they agree; it's a federal law.
So your plan could cause conflict between states and the federal government?
No.
Okay, would you agree that not every 16-year-old crashes their car or drives recklessly?
Yeah, but the majority just drive recklessly.
So your plan punishes responsible teens for what a few bad drivers do?
It's the majority of bad drivers. It's not just a few.
If turning 18 automatically makes someone more mature, then why do so many 18-year-olds still cause accidents?
I mean, it doesn't automatically make them mature, right? It's not like if I turned 18 tomorrow, I'd be magically mature. It's the life experience they've had. And again, we have that mandatory learning period.
So you're saying no 18-year-olds ever cause accidents?
No, that's not. That's not at all what I'm saying.
Do you agree that not every 16-year-old is irresponsible?
Sure, but again, that's the minority.
Wouldn't your plan delay independence and work experience for responsible teens?
Yeah, but we're still saving the teens' lives, which is more important than driving to work.
Do you agree that states currently set their own driving age laws?
Sure, I can do it.
So your plan would take that power away from the states?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions.
I have my timer set at 8 minutes. Please see the phone ready. Judge is ready. Okay, starting now. Before I begin, the affirmative team did not answer our question about their mandate. Their second mandate says 17-year-olds and under in training will be supervised at all times while driving by a person over 21 who at least has a permit. How can someone with a permit be able to supervise someone who is 17 years old? That doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to start off by saying, picture this. You've been waiting for years to finally get your license. You've practiced, you studied, and you're ready to hit the road. But suddenly the government tells you, sorry, you'll have to wait even longer. Frustrating, right? That's exactly the kind of problem this plan creates. It sounds good on paper, but in reality, all it does is create more problems than fixes it. It takes control away from the states, limits personal freedom, and punishes responsible young drivers. Every state has different traffic conditions and driver's education programs, and a one-size-fits-all rule completely ignores those differences. Our current system lets states decide what works best for their people, and that flexibility keeps our roads safer and our system more efficient. By the end of this debate, judges, if my partner and I have persuaded you, I urge you to vote negative, which now brings me to my first point, which is significance point 1. You can tag as not a national policy, but a state one. Not a national policy, but a state one. From Safety Resources Center on March 4th, 2025, quote, the age at which someone can begin driving and eventually earn an unrestricted license varies across the United States, primarily due to different state laws and graduated driver's licensing programs. These programs face in driving privileges for teens to enhance road safety. Later in the article, it states youngest permit ages states such as Alaska, Arkansas, Iowa, Kansas, North Dakota, and South Dakota allow learners permits at 14, reflecting rural needs where driving is often essential. Nebraska even offers a school permit at 14 for students in rural areas. Oldest permit ages, Connecticut, Kentucky, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania and Rhode Island set the minimum at 16. These states often have higher population densities and stricter safety regulations. End quote. It is important that each state has different driving ages to account for different driving conditions. As a uniform national standard is not practical for all areas, states with rural areas may need lower driving ages for teenagers who need to drive to school or work, while denser urban states may require higher ages due to traffic congestions and safety concerns. Allowing states to set their own law enables them to address the unique needs for their population and environment. And now brings me to my second point, which you can tag as significance 2. Maturity is not an age. Maturity is not an age. From 360 Tri-County by Luke Duncan, a 360 journalist, on December 11th, 2022. Quote, when I participated in formal debates during my freshman year of high school, one of the current issues my class and I discussed was whether or not the legal driving age should be raised. Articles from SafeWise.com and DriveSafety.net list the pros and the cons of raising the age, and I think the cons far outweigh the pros. Whether or not a teenager is responsible enough to hold a driver's license, it should be determined by parents and whoever judges the teen driver's tests, rather than age. In some way, that age doesn't determine one's level of maturity. A person who is 18 could certainly have better judgment than someone who is 16. However, there are immature 18-year-olds and mature 16-year-olds. Maturity, in the most cases, is determined by the way the teen was raised. End quote. Raising the legal driving age to 18 ignores the fact that maturity and responsibility don't come from age, they come from experience and upbringing. If we take away that ability for responsible 16-year-olds to drive, we punish teens who are ready and capable while offering no real safety benefits. The real solution isn't education, it's parental guidance and not unnecessary age restrictions. Which brings me to my third point, which you can tag as significance 3. Fear in the first months. From Risk Factor for Teen Drivers on August 4th, 2025, quote, crash risk is particularly high during the first month of licensure. For example, data indicates that the crash rate per mile driven is about 1.5 times as high for 16-year-old drivers as it is for 18 to 19-year-old drivers, end quote. Crash risk is the highest during the first month after a teenager receives their license, regardless of whether they are 16, 17, or 18 years old. The first months of driving are the most dangerous period because driving alone for the first time is intimidating. You're suddenly responsible for controlling a car, making split-second decisions, and navigating traffic without anyone's guidance. The fear and pressure affects driving, not age. That's what makes those first months most dangerous. Which brings me to my fourth point, which you can tag as significance 4. And I have a tagline from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Quote, GDL programs as a whole were associated with statistically reliable reductions in traffic crashes, outcomes of 16% from 16-year-olds and 11% from 17-year-olds, but were not reliably associated with changes in crash outcomes for 18 or 19-year-olds, suggesting that delaying licensure to 18 by itself does not meaningfully reduce crash rates or costs for older novices. End quote. Graduated driver's licensing program shows real results. 16-year-olds see 16% fewer crashes and 17-year-olds 11% fewer, while 18 and 19-year-olds don't see any improvements. This proves that delaying licensure to 18 doesn't make drivers safer. It's the training and experience that actually reduces crashes, not waiting for a birthday. Raising the age just postpones driving without cutting risks, leaving crashes largely unchanged. While it is true that teens are statistically involved in more accidents, the real issue isn't age. It's inexperience, distraction, and the lack of supervision. Our current licensing system already solves for that by requiring drivers' education, supervised practice, and multiple tests before anyone gets on the road. On top of that, every state already has its own system that fits its people because driving conditions and requirements aren't the same everywhere. Forcing one uniform federal driving age ignores those differences and takes power away from the states. Second, maturity isn't something that magically comes with turning 18. Some 16-year-olds are responsible, focused, and ready, while some adults aren't. Age doesn't define maturity, experience and responsibility do. And finally, crash data shows that the first month, I did not bring up that point. Being responsible doesn't change the fact that making all decisions without guidance is overwhelming, and accidents are more likely during this period. Raising the driving age doesn't prevent crashes, it just delays them. That's why the negative side believes raising the driving age isn't fair, effective, or necessary. Judges, if this plan is passed in real life, it wouldn't just hurt teens, it would affect you. A federal driving age means the national government gets to override what your states believe is safest, whether you live in rural states where teens need to drive earlier I don't have my paper. I'm sorry. So a federal driving age means that national government gets to override what your states believe is the safest. Thank you, Minority, for cross-examination.
On the timer. All my judges are ready. All right, I'll get started. So, would you agree that lives matter more than money?
Yes.
And how about fun with friends?
Yes.
Right. So, shouldn't we lower the risk of losing your life and just not have these things like money and fun with friends?
I suppose so, but your plan is just delaying these crashes. It isn't actually stopping them.
Right, but would you agree that our plan isn't only raising the driving age?
I guess so, but your mandates are really confusing.
Right. Sorry about that. Would you agree that these mature 16-year-olds you're talking about, this is the minority, correct?
Correct.
So isn't the majority immature?
I can't remember the evidence showing that. Did you bring up evidence about that?
No, sorry, I'm asking about the evidence that you brought up. These mature 16-year-olds, they're the minority, right?
I guess so.
So does that not mean the majority is immature?
I guess so.
So doesn't that mean the majority of these immature 16-year-olds, which are the majority, these 16-year-olds, wouldn't the majority be bad drivers or irrational drivers?
I guess so.
Alrighty. No further questions. Thank you.